Welcome to the Ripple Effect by the Alliance. We are committed to raising the frequency of our planet. We'll discuss hot topics, share practical tools and sacred frequencies to reveal the magic in your life. Come laugh, cry, and have fun with us.
Everyone, and welcome back to the Ripple Effect podcast by the Alliance. And we have a really special episode coming up. Actually, the next 3 episodes in this episode series is really special because we are going to be interviewing each other. So this will let you get to know us, each of us, a little bit more. We're going to go a little bit deeper, why we're passionate about what we do, and you'll get to know how we're alike and how we are also very different, and what we're passionate about, and what we are, what our zone of genius, what we excel at is also different. So we're going to dive into all that, plus some fun questions along the way. And we're going to kick it off. Stacia and I are going to interview our beautiful Hannah, and I can't wait. Right, Stacia? Are you excited?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. We're like, I'm so excited to interview each other. Like, we know about each other, but I never get tired of hearing things, and I know we're gonna learn things that maybe we didn't already know about one another. So to kick it off, our first kind of question for you, Hannah, is we'd love for you to share with the audience your focus that you are doing in your business. So the magic that you create both online and offline, what is the focus in your business? And please share that with everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here today because every time we get together, I feel like some magic spark happens. And I'm always so excited to just have this time where we share, where we talk, and I feel that transformation happens. And that's exactly what I've devoted my life to doing. And it's creating instant transformation for people. Some of the I've done so much work, all the long kind of work, all the self-development work where I've gone in, I've revisited my entire life. I did one time where it was like I went through my entire existence, and it was painful. And the work that I do, I feel that we have enough pain in life, we have enough suffering to, on top of it, keep looking for it. And I know that a lot of things we have to face, and they're not easy, and they're challenging, and there's fear involved, there's challenges involved, but there's also that point of view of why couldn't it be easier, right? So the things the way that I create the transformation is, imagine like when we all used to go to work. Remember those times? Well, I've never really done that, but like if it took 1 hour of your commute, and then someone told you, what do you mean it takes you an hour? I go on that road every day. I go to that place every day, and it takes me 40 minutes. If you go out on this exit and make a right turn and a left turn, and they give you this shortcut, then do you go home and do a pro and con list of, should I take the exit? What are the pros of taking the shortcut? And what are the cons? And is the one list longer? And is this going to, affect my life in a deeper way? Or do you just take the shortcut, and the next morning you take the shortcut? Right? Once you know these things, you can't unknow them. And for me, the work that I do is all about opening our eyes to new things and finding like the spots where maybe there was some darkness, maybe there's a way out and a way of clearing blockages that now they're gone. And the next day you move on as if those things never even existed in your life.
Yeah. And you've definitely had that impact, I know, in my life. And I'm pretty sure I can speak for Stacia when I say that.
For sure.
So I love that. And you're the way you do everything. I'm like, just like, everybody needs to know what Hannah does, because honestly, when she talks about that, when she says it, like, she's not kidding. Like, honestly, the things that happen, we do a meditation twice a week together. And last night I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, the thing that came up for me, I was like, this thing, like, like, manifests in so different ways in my life. And it was like, wow, now I'm aware of it and I can just let it go. Like, it didn't have to be a big thing. It was just like, okay, let's move on. So we're on to the next thing. So that the things that I do want to bring into my life and manifest in my life move faster. So I think you're so gifted. And I think we've been your best kept secret, like best kept secret for a while. So I'm so glad we're doing this podcast and more people are going to get to know about your gifts. So.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Hannah, you're just so magical. And you're right. Every time we work together, it's just like magic happens. And like Sarah was saying, you have these epiphanies and it's like, oh, this is why this happens. And I can't imagine going through every aspect of my life like you did at one time, but you know, the work that we do, it just gets easier as we go because it's like we've expanded ourselves to accept, you know, whatever it is to heal. And that's, I owe that to you, is, you know, teaching us how to do this. So thank you very much. But I want to know, because you said something like, have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? You said that you didn't really have to go into work. So I'm kind of curious, like, what's going on with that?
Well, you know, when I was growing up, that word entrepreneur wasn't thrown around like it is today. Mm-hmm. But I always say I've never had a job in my life. I've been so blessed. Well, first of all, I was born into a family of entrepreneurs. Like my grandmother, my only grandmother that I actually knew, had a silver store in the Pink Zone in Mexico City, which was the fancy, like the Fifth Avenue of New York in Mexico City. The Pink Zone was like the place to be where all the fancy shops were and whatever. And my grandmother had a silver store. And she was widowed with 4 kids, but one was a week-old baby. Like my grandfather died a week after my aunt was born. And so my grandmother had to just, you know, figure it out. And it wasn't by choice. And I always say the universe gives you things to do by choice or by force. So her entrepreneurial journey was by force. My dad was orphaned. His mom died when he was 10 years old or 11 years old. And he was on his own at 12. And so he was working at a very young age. He left middle school. And then he eventually, when he was older, he graduated, but he started his own company at a very young age. And he always had that thing in him of being his own boss. And so I learned that. I grew up with that. And I at one point, I actually worked for my dad. And that was fun. But then I got married, and then I worked at a design studio. But every job that I've had has been an incredible fun experience. And when they became not fun experiences, I would quickly figure out a way to leave and do something else, because I have never been willing to compromise. And whenever I've had jobs where I had a job where I would cry from the moment I left my house to the moment I arrived. And in the parking lot, I would dry my tears, put on my biggest smile I could muster. Thank God I have a nice smile, right? And I would just beam my pearly whites and walk into work and pretend that life was awesome. Yeah. When in fact, I was devastated that I was, working there. And it wasn't anything terribly bad. It was working at Crate and Barrel. It was actually quite fun. But I just didn't want to be an attendant at a store. Yeah. That was not what I felt I was meant to do. So I think I lasted about 3 months, and I was actually poached by Estee Lauder. I became a makeup artist for prescriptives. And right there, they tripled my salary. So it was an immediate change. And it was a lovely experience. So, I've never really held a job where I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And sometimes when I would think I'm going to apply for this job, all I would have to do is think for a second and feel into the work. And if my stomach went into a knot, I knew, don't even bother. Like, don't waste your time on that, because you're not going to be happy. And what's the point?
What do you think let you, because I think so many people feel that way, but they don't listen to it. Like, what gave you that bravery to listen to that? Confidence to listen to it. Like, what was it? I'm just curious, because so many people they're probably listening and they're like, yeah, that's me. I'm sitting in my car crying before I go into work. But they're like not doing the thing to change it. So like, what gives you that? Or is it like, what's that saying? Blind something or whatever, foolishly blind, or you're just like going with it. It's like, you don't like, you're just like, I'm just going to go with it, or like, what is it?
Oh no, it can be really scary. Mm-hmm. Like if I had quit that job, and just to think that I wasn't going to have the money coming in, as little as it was, I was like, oh my God, right? But I've never been willing to compromise my joy and my happiness for anything, for any money.
That's huge. I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's not worth it to me to be so unhappy, because it's my life.
Yeah. Something you said too when you were sharing that was like talking about like your grandma starting as an entrepreneur, and then like your dad, and like they obviously had things to overcome. Like, that's huge. Like losing, like you have a week old baby and you're losing your spouse. But I feel like those things, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was fuel for them. So I'm just curious, like, what hard moments have happened in your life? And I know of some of them, right? But then when you look back, you actually realize like how they impacted you for the better. Because I'm just thinking, like, even things like when you're not willing to settle, but like with that comes the fear, and comes like maybe disappointing people, or maybe big changes, or maybe like really huge life altering things. Like, what do you like, what hard moments have happened for you that have actually then turned into like, either maybe in the moment or during or after, you're like, wow, this actually impacted it for the better?
Well, I was actually thinking of one thing that you all know about, but one thing that I may not have ever shared with you guys is that at one point I went through, like, I have enough college credits to give me a doctorate and maybe 2 doctorates, but in different areas.
Yeah.
I did a year of engineering. After a year, I was like, this is freaking not for me. I'm quitting. And I quit. I quit college. My mom was pissed. I quit college, but then I went back I wanted to finish. It wasn't that I didn't want to finish. I just didn't want to be with a bunch of chauvinistic men, because there were 3 girls in the whole generation studying engineering, and they would mess with me. They would call me there was a model of Volkswagen called the Caribe, which is Caribbean, which is a Jetta, the equivalent of Jetta. And the tagline was a beautiful piece of engineering. And they would call me a beautiful piece of engineering. And I would be irate because the other 2 girls weren't very pretty. And then it's like, well, compared to them, right? And so, but they would talk about me as if I'm an object. One teacher told me to go home and learn how to sweep and clean my house, and what the heck was I doing in engineering? And it was just so disgusting that I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this with my life. I didn't even want to study engineering. I wanted to study genetic engineering, and I was in industrial engineering for another whole long story. But at one point, I was in Mexico City. My parents had moved to Cancun. I was miserable. It was a time when there were a lot of kidnappings going on in Mexico City. I was always feeling, I would drive to school and come late at night and feel like always having to look over my shoulder. It was living in fear the entire time. And I decided my dad came one day and he was traveling. He was in Mexico because his business was still here. So he came once a month and my house was still set up. And so he came in and I was in my room and I was doing my design work and I was just weeping. He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm just so sad. I'm not happy here. I live in such fear and I'm in fear all the time. And he's told me, I've been very fortunate because my dad's told me, I'm never going to be the richest man in the graveyard. I'm going to spend all my money on experiences with you and your education. Like, he's always been so incredibly generous that way. And so has my mom. And so my dad said, where would you want to go? Where would you be happy? And I'm like, I don't know. And within a day, I decided I was going to Miami because my dad had an office there. So I called his assistant in Miami and said, find me a university that has design. She found the University of Miami, which happened to be one of the most expensive universities, but the worst design program, never mind. And I was in the best design program here in Mexico City. So crazy story that happened afterwards. But this was a Tuesday. I told my dad I'm going to Miami because I wanted to go back to New York, but my knee was busted. I wanted to be a dancer, but I broke my knee and that was another story. So I couldn't become a dancer. It's another trauma. And so now I'm studying design, but I'm like, if I'm sitting all those hours in the cold, I don't think I can handle it. If I'm dancing and creating heat, I can deal with the cold, but just sitting, I can't. So I went to awesome Miami weather. And on Thursday, I was supposed to pay for my next semester at this university. And if I didn't pay, I was out. They had this cutoff where if you didn't pay by that day, you couldn't go back to school. And if you couldn't go back to school, they kick you out of school. And Thursday came and I didn't pay. And Friday came and I got on a flight to spend the holidays in Cancun with my parents. I had my dog that I was going to drop off at my mom's house in Cancun, my portfolio, my design portfolio, my suitcase, and my crutches because I had a broken leg. And I had my cast on my leg and crutches, and that's how I left. And they ended up taking the cast off in Cancun right before I went to Miami. I arrived in Miami on January 11, 1988. And I didn't have room in school. I called that day and I said, I want to come to this university. And they're like, okay, come in, whatever. And I literally got into the semester in January. They literally accepted me at UM. I found out later when my daughter was a kid that we had to apply with a lot of time, and people did like a year before and all that stuff. I just went there and they're like, oh yeah, we have room for you. Come on. And fortunately, my SAT scores were really high, so that helped. So when I was able to retrieve them, because they wanted me to take the SAT again. And I'm like, no, I took it already. It's like, no, you should find the grades. And they're like, well, we have to call the people in the who do the GMAT and the SATs and all that, and find out. So they called them and they sent the transcripts, and they're like, my God, you're right. You don't need to take the SATs again. Because I think I had like 1,700 or something. I don't know. It was like high, really high, close to the top. So they were like, yeah, come in. No problem. Like, and yes, obviously for the design program, I mean, had I applied for the medicine or the law program, that would have been different. But I'm sure like they're like, design, free money, people. Right. Go up down.
Yeah.
A crack program, but it's UM.
Oh, wow. So, that's great. You've talked about, oh, sorry. You've talked a lot about your family. Who's really influenced you, through your life?
Oh gosh, through my life?
Yeah.
Well, I think my parents have been a really big force. They've always, like, my mom was always keen on me having street smarts and be able to handle any situation anywhere. And my dad was like the example of not giving up and making a decision and going for it when like he had no money to start a business. And it just everything started happening. And one day, he tells the story that he didn't have money. Something had happened and he didn't have money to pay salaries. And my uncle, who's I called him my uncle, but he was a friend of theirs from New York, asked him, he's like, I think I'm just going to close up and look for a job. And he's like, well, why? How much money do you need? And he's like, 500 pesos. And at that point, that was a lot of money. It would be the equivalent of saying like, $50,000, maybe even $10,000 now. Maybe not that much, but in the moment, it's like, how do I come up with like 10,000 pesos? And my uncle gave him the money. And then he was able to repay him really quickly because it was just like a cash flow issue, but he stayed the course. And so there's been an example in my family with my parents of staying the course. They're going to be married 60 years in March coming up. And yeah, in terms of that, it's always been like, yeah, just go for it. Just be happy and don't compromise.
Oh my God.
Love it. Yeah.
We also had a really awesome life because we lived a life that was a lot more glamorous than we could ever afford, because my dad was in the travel and tourism industry, and the perks in that industry are pretty cool. And so we got fam trips. We went, I was at the opening of Disney World in Florida.
What?
Like literally, I went to the opening.
Wow. Yeah, you have so many
and
cool
stayed the Contemporary, and like literally some of the attractions weren't even open. They were building them because they had to do a soft open because they were so far behind, and they're like, I think we missed a couple of attractions because they just weren't built.
Oh my God.
But we were, we'd go downstairs and have breakfast in the Contemporary and then stand up and just step onto the monorail that just goes right through the hotel. And it's just like stuff like that has been really impactful. And we all got upgraded every hotel that we went. We always traveled pretty much first class. So that's something that's just like, when I had to start traveling coach, it was a freaking eye-opener.
Yeah. You're like, what is this all about?
Yeah, I've gone back to first. Like I'm not doing coach. Like I figure it out. I literally found, and you guys know I find deals, right? One time I found a flight from I think we went to Nashville, Mexico City, Nashville, or Nashville, Mexico City, first class, one way for $234. I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Like,
I know. My mom's like, how on earth do you do
you need to write a book, multiple books for
Multiple.
I want a book about your life, because that, like, just the things you've experienced is incredible. I have a fun question for you. What makes Hannah laugh?
Oh my God. Pretty much. It's so easy. Everything. I like pretty much, I think it's easier to make me laugh, like a good joke, just spending time with friends. But ever since I was little, my best friend and I would just sit there together and just laugh about nothing for hours. We'd spend afternoon and everybody would pass by and we're just giggling away at the stupidest things. And like, these idiots, right? It's like, what are you laughing at? And we're like, the joke, whatever. And they're like, that's not even funny. And then it would make us laugh even more because we thought they just don't know anything.
Yes. And you're laughing so hard, like it hurts almost, right? Like,
yeah, completely. And we'd be like, if it started to rain, the first thing we'd do is run outside and just like get soaked and sing and dance in the rain. And she was my neighbor from around the corner. And I figured out one day my parents gave me walkie-talkies for Christmas, and I was so excited. So I gave her one, and I would send her to the roof of her house so we could talk to each other on our walkie-talkies.
Oh.
Like that, it just makes me happy. But I still do stuff like that. Like for my birthday this year, I went on a hot air balloon ride over the pyramids, and it was just like I was watching the pictures. Somebody asked me about that today, and I was like, oh my God, it's the most awesome thing. And I just have these pictures of myself going like, I was like, I'm 5 and I'm going on a hot air balloon.
oh my God, I love that. Yeah, you always have so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
It just, like I said,
Definitely.
Weekend, I went on a retreat. I told you about with the horses. Of course, now I want a ranch with a hot air balloon and horses.
I love that.
Oh, that's great. You do so much.
Somebody to take care of the horses, because
you would definitely need that.
Horses, I'll come.
Oh my God, you do so much. What would you say to someone who thinks that, it's too late to go after their dreams? Because you're always going after, whatever you're dreaming at that moment.
Yeah. I have a lot of stuff. It's a long list. I need more time. Get out of your head. Get into your heart, and go like this and go la 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 la. You can't do it. You're too old. La 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 la. What you say? La 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 la. That's the best recipe. Don't listen, and stop. If you think you're too old, Louise Hay. If you don't know Louise Hay, go look her up, because she was the editor and the founder of Hay House Publishing, the biggest, at the forefront of the self-development industry. And she started at 50 doing the Hay House thing. And she died just recently at 89 or 90, 89, I think she was when she died. She had 39 really? No. Yeah, 39 really good years. 39 good years.
Yeah.
And she started at 50.
Yeah.
And at the rate we're going, we're going to be living to 120. So we're technically in diapers.
Right.
We're just starting. Well,
Yeah.
and like you were 38 or 39 when you went into acting?
39.
39.
And I was,
like people would be like, well, it's too late for me. That was a dream I had, and I should have done it when I was younger.
You should hear what people told me. They're so kind and lovely. Who's
Right?
gonna
At
your
I like
age?
that. Because it's like you just had to be like, I can't listen. If you listened to those people, you wouldn't have done it.
Oh my God. You know what my answer was? Because they would tell me, at your age, who's gonna hire you? And I'd be, I don't know. But if I don't ask, I'm never gonna find out. Number one. Number two.
Sorry, before you keep going, was this like family and relatives and friends, or was this like
Yeah. Oh,
industry?
totally. People I knew.
Yeah.
Of course. There was no social media to have strangers attack you.
Right.
No, and I didn't know if it was like people like in the industry that were like, oh no, this won't work.
And you know one in the industry.
Okay.
This many people in the industry. Not the one person.
You're so brave.
And so everybody's like, you don't know anybody. How are you ever gonna? Well, I don't know, but I'm gonna try, because I'm not gonna get to 60, which I'm gonna be really soon in a few years. I'm not gonna get to 60 and think shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
Because right now, I'm not an actress.
Mm-hmm.
So if I try and I'm not an actress, I'm still not gonna be one.
Yeah.
And it'll take me the same amount of time to not be an actress than to be one. It's just a choice. And I made my choice, and I'm like, I'm going for it. And I'd rather die trying and not making it than giving up before I even start.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
So I want to chat more about like what, like the specifics that you do now in your life. So like, I know meditation, sound healing, all of that is really like a huge part of your life, and what you do, like your own like everyday routine, plus like what you do for your clients, like Stacia and I, who I mentioned at the top of this, like we're both in, we do a meditation with Hannah twice a week. So like, was that something that you always like to do and that you were always interested in throughout your life? Or is this something that, you know, similar to other things that you've done, came to you later? Like, did you see yourself doing meditation, and let alone like teaching other people?
My God. It was the farthest thing from my mind.
And you're so good at it.
Thank you. I started on my self-development journey in 1996 or 97. Noelle, my daughter, was 3.
Wow.
The first thing that was given to me was a book by Sarah Van Brannock. It's spelled Breathnach, Breathnach. And it was called Simple Abundance. And it was a book this thick, and it had one thing to do per day for 365 days. And that is where I found my gratitude list in 1997. Because in one of the days, it was like, write 5 things that you're grateful for in the morning when you wake up and right before you go to bed.
Wow.
And That alone changed my entire life. That's why that's the first thing I teach people. Be grateful for whatever it is that you have. And as I evolved and developed, I realized that I had to be grateful for the good things that I thought were good and the bad things that I thought were bad, because we have this thing called judgment, but we'll get into that later. It's like judgment diet, right? And so when you learn to be grateful about every single thing, then your life changes even more. Then a friend of mine who I call my angel, Yamila Heibloom, she was one of the leaders of the Kabbalah Center, but she did this thing called the Landmark Forum. And she called me one day, because you're supposed to call people one of the nights to bring more people over into the forum. And she said, do you trust me? And I'm like, with my life. And she said, I need you to come to this thing on Thursday, whatever, Thursday night or Tuesday night or something. Tuesday night. It's always a Tuesday night. And I'm like, yes. I didn't even ask. I just said yes, because she was asking me to go. Yeah. I got there and they explained this one concept. They said, this is life. And this is the lens through which you see life. Usually it's like this. The forum helps you do this. So you can see very clearly that this is your concept and how you see life, but life is like this. And there's so many other points of view. We all have our lens through which we see life. And that night I was like, can you please start this now? Let me sign up, let me pay you and start teaching me right now. I don't want to leave. And it was the most transformational weekend of my life ever. At that point, my marriage was in the dump, totally on the rocks. And I wanted nothing more than to save my marriage and have a beautiful family life. I loved my husband. I loved my daughter. My marriage had been a disaster from the day after we got married. And all I wanted was to have a happy family life. So I went there with that intention and I got it. I got it for a while. We lasted a long time because of all the changes that I made, because if I change, everything around me changes. It wasn't enough. And we ended up divorcing years later. But that foundation, I did the entire curriculum for life. And this is not an ad for the forum and Landmark Education, but I know that if you're here listening to this podcast, perhaps you've already attended the forum, but it's because we seem to attract each other. Yeah. But it was a huge deal in my life that started me off on my journey. And my coach, my leader, they were called leaders at Landmark, was this woman who led the forum for 4 days at that time, 4 days straight. And she'd go from 8 in the morning or 9 when we started to whenever we ended, which would be 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. We'd still be there sitting in this chair going through like awareness. And she was there for the whole 4 days, taking people who were fighting her and creating these transformations. And I was just like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Because she was creating these transformations that were magical. And they wanted me to stay there and start following the whole thing. But it was just like a career. And at that point, I was ready for that. But because of the forum, and actually it was there's a 3-month program. I literally started singing in public in that program, because at that point I had such stage fright that I would throw before I would go on stage. And in that 3-month program, at the end of the program, we had to do something that really was challenging. And I sang in front of all these people. And after that, I recorded my first album. And I started singing like cabaret and doing shows and stuff. And shocking people to death, because Nobody knew I sang except for my car and my shower.
Yeah. And you're such a beautiful singer.
And I was so scared of breaking people's ears that I wouldn't subject them through the torture of hearing me sing. And finally, I broke through that, and I was able to finally sing in public, and not have only my voice teachers know that I could sing.
Wow.
So yeah.
And then how did that lead then to like the sound healing and meditation piece?
So God, okay. So in 2001.
I love that you have all the dates.
Right.
Yeah, it's so funny because like the movie What the Bleep came out. What the Bleep, do we know? Never seen it? You have to watch it.
Okay.
And there was a part where they talked about the water and Masaru Emoto, and how he took these droplets of water and saw them and froze them and saw through the microscope, and he sang to them and put Bach music or Beethoven, they would create beautiful crystals. And if they put the word love, peace, whatever, they would create their own crystal, like a snowflake. And it was beautiful. But if they played acid music, or if they put hate, murder, I hate you, whatever, the water would turn into a blob identical to a cancer cell.
What?
How much water do we have in our bodies?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, bloody hell. Oh my God. It just like went like, and I've always loved water. And then at that point, I was already meditating, or trying to, because I tried to meditate for so many years before I actually was able to meditate. But I would show up every day at 6 a.m. at the Brahma Kumari Center with my eyes open. That didn't work for me. I'm just like looking at the picture of Baba, whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, this guy and whatever. And I'm like, nothing is happening. But something must have happened, because I heard a voice that said solfeggio. And I was like, what the heck is that? That's my scales that I sing. That's the solfeggio scales that I practice. And there was no real, the internet was just starting, but I started finding out and going in and finding what the heck solfeggio was. And I found that it was what does, now of course I don't remember what kind of monks. It's not the Dominican monks that sang the Gregorian chants.
Mm-hmm.
This particular kind of monks. We'll figure it out. Maybe Stacia will find it out. They used the solfeggio scale. And then they started there was a lot of research done on the different frequencies and how they each meant something different and how they affected each chakra in the body. And I started looking into sound and how sound would affect the water in our bodies, and how words are so important. The words we speak, because if we're saying horrible words and having horrible emotions in our bodies, well, could that possibly be the precursor of cancer in our bodies or other misalignments? And then I started putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, well, the body has a natural healing ability. It has an innate healing system. So all we have to do is bring ourselves into coherence and homeostasis and allow the body to heal itself. And then I'm like, we could do it with sound. And then I came up with the gratitude concerts. And then I started looking for musicians so they could all pick a scale, and then we could get the Cirque du Soleil of the sound healing, right? And I even have that name registered, but no musician wanted to do it without me paying them, because musicians see they're not like actors. You tell an actor, I have this beautiful piece of work. And we're going to do a reading. Would you like to take part in it? Oh my God, yes. Where? Oh, well, in this place, but you got to bring lunch. And if you can, bring some food for everybody else, because like they're all starving. Right? And like every actor that you ask, if they like the piece, they're going to show up because they love what they do for the love of the art. A musician is like, how much you going to pay me? How much you going to pay me? You want me to play for you? How much? How much? How much? How much? Mm-hmm. So it's a totally different mentality. And I was looking for musicians and I had no money to pay them to do this grandiose idea. And for years, I'm telling you, 15 years, nothing was coming to me because I didn't believe that I was capable of doing this by myself.
Wow. Is that what motivated you to start sharing this with others?
Well, no. I came to Mexico one time for the spring equinox. I had found a Mayan astrology teacher because I decided I now want to learn about Mayan astrology. So I came to Mexico and I went to this market that I go to every Saturday when I'm in Mexico, called the Bazar Sábado, which is a Saturday bazaar, mostly for tourists, but there's a market outside that has all the handicrafts and ceramics and just all this incredible artisanal work. And I love going there because I always get very inspired. The streets are all rock, whatever they're called. Cobblestones. And it's like the old buildings from when the Spaniards were here at first. And it's just like incredible architecture and just beautiful. And I see this woman that's selling the Mayan glyphs. And I'm like, oh my God, did you just start doing this? Because I'm going to go start studying Mayan astrology. She's like, I've been here 10 years. What? Never once had I seen her. I never registered.
Wow. No.
Because you register what you're aware of.
Yeah.
It's like looking for your keys and they're right there and you're looking for them. And then somebody's like, is this what you're looking for? Yeah. Just like that. And so she gave me my glyph and she told me, what are you doing tomorrow for the equinox? And I'm like, I don't have any plans. I just arrived in Mexico. I'm actually going to Veracruz 2 days, a day away to take a class. She's like, you need to meet this woman. She's doing a ceremony, go there. It's 100 pesos. I don't know how much it was, like nothing. I talked my mom into coming with me. My mom was like, at this point, she didn't know how weird it was going to get. My life. And in hers, it was like the beginning of the journey. But she comes with me and we did this ceremony. It was great. And as I'm leaving, I liked this woman. And I said, I'd love to have a session with you. And she's like, well, I'm giving a conference here and there. I don't have time. Call me in a month. I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, okay, no problem. I'll call you in a month. And instead of me saying, I don't even live here, would you make an exception? I turned around to leave. I'm like, it wasn't meant for me. And all of she says, wait a second, come back. I come back. She said, they just told me you don't even live here. And you're leaving soon. And I'm like freaking shocked. And I'm like, because the other woman didn't even know that. Like nobody knew that.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, they're gossiping to me. And they're saying, and she starts telling me all these things. She's like, that I have to make room for you. You have to come see me because, you're a singer and you have to sing. And I was just like,
oh
what?
My God.
And I'm like, start weeping, right? And oh my God. She saw me at the end. We became great friends. And so she tells me in the message, I go, yeah, but I've been looking for musicians. She's like, no, you have to do it yourself. I don't know how to do it. She goes, you got to figure it out. Sing it. Just sing the tones. You have to do it by yourself. And I left, went back to New York. And one day in my apartment, I started just playing the straight tones. Nothing really lovely, if you ask me. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, in one of the tones, 528, by the way, special tone for me, I start hearing it. And I start hearing melodies that are coming from I don't know where. And I just start singing on top of the tone. And all of a sudden, I'm singing a note. I'm creating the harmonics. Sounded like a freaking choir.
Yeah.
I'm like freaking myself out. I'm like, sounds like 20 voices are singing. Like, oh my God, I found the harmonics. I started to learn how to tune my body to the tone and vibrate my bones, my muscles, not only my voice, and just go into the notes and then hit some notes where the note would go, boom, and it splits open and it creates all the harmonics. And you're hearing like a choir.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's what I have to do. So I started practicing on people. I would play the tone and have them sit in front of me and I would sing the notes. And I started singing red chakra, orange chakra, yellow chakra, going up the chakras. By the end, they were like flying. But I couldn't feel it because I wasn't the one creating that. I wasn't receiving the sound. I was the one creating the sound.
Right.
And everybody was like, what the heck that just happened? What did you do? What did you do to me? They would start crying. They would have visions. They would see colors. And I was like, well, I think I'm on the right path now. But it took like 15 years to gel.
That's incredible.
And then Harry came into my life. That was later.
Oh my God. Yeah. And that just took it up like a whole bunch of notches. And
yeah.
I can't I'm sure at some point on here people get a taste or they can go like check things out to get a taste of like your voice and the sound healing and everything that you create because yeah, it's magical. I'm so happy that you found that woman. Like it just all worked out, right?
Yeah. And then the meditation, remember, I was not even ever contemplating being a meditator.
That's what I was going to ask too, because like, it's so funny that like you reached that point, but knowing how like you thought, like you would try to meditate and sit and look at like, I forget who you said, Baba something or whatever. But like, what would be, so for somebody who's listening and they're like, yeah, that'd be me, like trying to meditate. Like, what would be your biggest tip that you would give them for someone who's just starting out on their meditation journey? Like, I know for me, when I joined, I was like, I can't meditate, but I trust Hannah. Like, I just knew something good was going to come out of it. And I'm like, I can meditate now. And I was telling the ladies I meditated in the MRI machine last week because I was like, oh my God, I'm claustrophobic. I opened my eyes. I shouldn't have. I was freaking out. I was about to press the panic button. And then I was like, no, I can meditate. I have 20 minutes and I can meditate. So like to be at that point, knowing that I couldn't meditate before. So what would you say is like your biggest tip for somebody who's just starting on that journey?
To not overthink it.
Yeah.
There are so many meditation styles available. To try one. And if you don't get results, go for something else.
Yeah.
If you feel it, ask yourself, is this really working? Look, it took me 20 years and a year and a half to meditate deeply. I went through eyes open, eyes closed, focus on the tip of your nose, breath in, breath out, breath this, breath, and mantras. I mean, just everything under the sun. And I was like, I would just hear of people having these mystical experiences meditating. And I'm like, I'm going to get one of those if it's a lot.
And I think that's part of like people go in with this expectation of what meditating. I think people think, oh, I have to be like completely turned off from everything in
You
order to
don't
have a
think.
huge, and yeah, you
Like,
don't.
stop thinking. Well, of course not. If you stop thinking, you're actually dead.
Sorry.
And it's like, oh, but people say that like so convinced. Yes, you can slow it down. And eventually with practice, you go into a place of nothingness. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that way.
Mm-hmm.
It is not that way.
Yeah.
And it is no longer that way. It used to be, and it still is partially commitment to a journey. Okay. And when you're in this journey that I call the Hotel California, once you're in it, you can't freaking leave, even if you want to. But there is a way of achieving a lot. Maybe not a mystical experience right away, but what about just calming down your nervous system for a change? Mm-hmm. What about being able to release the stress and just being like, for 2 minutes, nothing's happening. Silence in my mind. And we create the eye of the hurricane, right? Where we know it's our safe space and we can always reach it. And the more we do it, the faster we get to that place. Yes, you can't do it immediately. It's not going to happen in a day. You guys have been working with me for over 2 years now, right? Doing the meditation. Right. But what happened on the first week you did it? You meditated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you gave that tip for people, like not overthink it, because that's what let me be able to like the first week be able to meditate. And it was like, you know, if a thought comes, it's like, oh, just let the thought come and just let it go. Like thoughts are gonna come and go. Like something I remember you saying.
You're gonna think some days it's really bad.
Isn't that interesting, right? Like, oh, okay, isn't that interesting that the thought came, and not like get all worked up, like, oh, I can't have any thoughts. Or I remember even like you said, if you're itchy, like don't try not to scratch it because you're gonna want to, but don't like just go. You like taught us to like go very slowly, right?
No.
Move up. So like, yes, you can still scratch, but you're gonna go very slow. And it was like, oh, okay. Like I had this whole picture in my mind that it had to be like picturing myself like a monk would be, you know, meditating and right. Like, yeah, and not like, and where I live, there's somebody, if it's not a cat jumping on me, it's something else. So like, I just, the way you taught people like that expectation, just not overthinking it and just let it be what it is, that took the pressure away, then it allowed it to happen. Right. Yeah. You
just get in a state of allowance. And I told you, just show up and I'll do the work.
Yeah. Pressure released.
Right.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to do the work. You're just going to show up. Your commitment is to show up every time. That's all you had to do. Show up and follow directions. Yeah. Right. And I said, I'm going to do all the work for you. And I did at the beginning. But the thing is that I found a way to calm the mind by explaining to it what's happening, honoring the mind and saying, listen, this is what we're going to do. And this is why it works. Yeah. And there's that mind-body monitoring system, right? So the mind follows the body follows the mind. So we're going to do this cool thing. And then the mind's like, oh, okay. And then we can tell the mind, listen, take the weekend off. Mm-hmm. And the mind's like, oh, cool. Without feeling that it's going to die and it has to protect itself to the death. Because the ego feels like it's dying. And there, at no point is it a threat to your mind or to your ego? It's an honoring of it continuously. But then it creates the opening because there's no resistance. And that creates the allowance to find that space of peace. And then as we do it more and more and more, you get stronger, you get faster, you get bigger insights, more magic happens in your life. But if you start meditating and on the first week, you feel like, holy wow, I did it, and there's a win, then you're continuously giving yourself wins, right? And so if you go to a system and you like it, but it doesn't work, don't quit, find something else. If you find somewhere and you don't like it, leave and find something else. Until you find your place. And I never thought I would be teaching meditation. Like I was like, there's Deepak and Oprah. What the heck am I doing teaching meditation? It's like, Deepak does it really well. And Oprah is now his sidekick. Like, what the heck am I doing teaching meditation? Like, who am I competing against? And then I thought, well, there's no competition. And I was just led to do this. And I was led to do this right before the pandemic hit. And I was told to drop my warrior program and share what I did for myself, because that's what would get us through what was coming.
So interesting.
She's
and of course it did.
So many things.
Oh goodness. So what is your favorite topics? Like, what do you like to talk about? Like, what do you like to teach?
Instant transformation.
Yeah.
I just, that and music.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
so
just.
And then I have a follow-up question then. When you think about like what lights you up the most in life, is it also like, is it doing those things, or is it like something outside of that you do for yourself?
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with what I do.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I just live it. It's part of my life. But I also do fun things, right? Like going on a hot air balloon and going on a horse retreat. I'm going to go to Guatemala next week to be with the Mayas for their New Year ceremony and be inducted into the path for like doing cacao ceremonies.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, it's just like, and the idea of having a ranch and having a horse, and just like, I have so many things that just light me up.
Yeah.
And of course, my boyfriend, Harry.
Yes. You do so many amazing things. What do you think is your biggest passion out of everything that you've tapped into magically?
Oh, watching people transform right before my eyes.
Oh,
that gives me the biggest high.
Yeah.
Seeing people let go of something that was holding them hostage for years. Yeah. And going like this, poof, and now they're not, and now they're free.
Right. And you make it so easy too. It's just amazing. Things that could just, make people completely just stop living, and we can maneuver through that energy so easily when you lead us. It's just really incredible.
Yeah. I would, Sisha, I would love for us like to end this before we get into Hannah talking about like her offers or anything else she wants to share. Like, I'd love to if we could both share with her like the biggest the impact that she's had on us like, and I can go first because
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out there at you, Stacia, but like, okay, I'm gonna get emotional. I'm an emotional person. Like the way, like I never thought, whew, 2 years ago when I met you, like I knew you were special. I knew you were gonna have an impact in my life, but I never knew it was gonna be to this extent. And like me jumping into what I thought was like, oh, I'm just gonna learn how to meditate because it sounds cool, to you creating like a huge ripple effect in my life, um and being so patient but also pushing me right along the way has transformed my life and like had such a big impact on everything that I'm doing, my relationships with my family, my spouse, and being brave to take chances and in my business, and other things that are coming for me that I had on the back burner that I'm being brave and doing that I wanted to do for a long time. So and just the way you've done it along the way, I'm sure at some point we'll talk about like the things we've done. And one of the biggest things for me was like that moment you had me like get up in front of everyone and act like a monkey, right? And you're like that's like you're just like, okay, so you could see me better than I could see myself, and you could see as much as I thought I was like, okay, I'm doing all the things, you're like, you're holding back, there's something that you're holding back and you're not completely letting yourself be seen. And you put me on the spot in front of everybody. We're on our call and it was like, I want you to do something, you're gonna hate me. And you're like, I want you to get up and act like a monkey. And I was like, oh my God, I could literally just, I don't know, close the screen, just say, no, I'm not doing it, or I'm not comfortable, maybe next time. Like I could have come up with a million excuses. And you created such an environment. And I think this speaks to like Hannah has us showing up and other ladies who are in our meditation twice a week. And when we do a meditation, it's not like half an hour, like we're on that, we're in the depths of it, right? Like this is a commitment twice a week. And everybody shows up every time. And I think that speaks to the space and the environment that you've created. I don't know any coach, even myself, that like has people who are that dedicated showing up. And it's, yes, it goes to speak to like who we are and what you've created with like what we've created for ourselves. But I think it's more it's you, Hannah, and it's what it's the space that you've created for us to want to show up for you and for ourselves. And I just want to thank you. And going back to like the monkey scene, like in that moment, I knew that so much would come from that and would unlock so much. So I got up and I did it. And I like, people were like, Stacia was there. People were like crying after. I was crying after because it wasn't just like, oh, she's being silly and acting silly in front of us. It was unlocking so much of me that I was hiding, right? And it was like setting it free. And it wasn't having to go into this fucking healing thing where I'm exposing every little thing that happened and reliving it. It was like, let's just fucking do something that's going to set this free. And yeah, other things came with that and we have more discussions and things. But that moment changed the game for me. It impacted how I was showing up in my business. It impacted my income that was coming in my business. Like so much came from that. And I'm just so grateful for you. And I want you to know how grateful I am that all the brave steps that you took that led you to showing up for us so that we could also be brave. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It is
close all the time.
This is why I do what I do.
Oh,
It just makes everything worth it. And every tear I cried and every hardship I'd gone through, it just makes it worth it, because that day I told you, today is going to change your life. And I knew it. I knew it in that moment. And literally the next day, you showed up different.
Yeah. Like it unlocked like what was there for years, right? For so many
years. And all of you started showing up even more every time. And you just started to literally bloom right before our very eyes. And we've all in the group seen the transformation, and it's just such an inspiration. But you really took the opportunity and you really showed up. You chose to show up. And like you said, you could have made 20,000 excuses, and I was ready for you to say no.
Yeah, and I did say, you did say, you can say no, right? It wasn't like it was like,
yeah, I said, you're free to say no, because what I'm going to ask you is going to make you hate me first, but then love me. I thought you're going to hate me, but then you're going to love me.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew it in the moment. And as you were going through the exercise, everybody started crying because of the beauty that came out of that. And as you were doing it, you started transforming right there. We could see it. And it was just like, holy cow, what just happened? But because you were willing to play with me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So thank you for being willing to show up and the crazy things I am.
Well, thank you for creating like a space where I felt safe to do that, because others have tried and it didn't work. So
oh my goodness, Sarah, like how am I going to top that? Because now I want to cry too. No, I was lucky enough to come into Hannah's world. I had been doing a lot of mindset work, and the pandemic hit, and I was just like, wow, there's all these people on the internet. This is incredible. And so I came into her meditation program, which I won because I was winning everything at that time, because I was doing everything at that time. And she took me from, thinking that this Bumblebee Jasper, that this is where all of my good fortune was coming from. And she started making me realize that it was everything that I already had within me. And it was, this energy that I could tap into, but I didn't understand how to tap into it. And it was just being vulnerable, like Sarah said, just being able to share, and she would know when there was more, and we would go down that road together, and it would be so healing, and just everything that you needed at that moment to push forward. And now that it's been over 2.5 years, it's just incredible, like the transformations, because there's so many, I can't even pinpoint it. It's like she has said so many times, this is going to change your life, and it always does. But it's like having that ability to really, feel like we're at the helm, like we have control of this ship, and we're just sailing on that magical sea. And it's just been so life changing to work with you and to everybody within our group. It's just been so incredibly healing and what was needed. And I can't appreciate you any more than I already do, that you've given me that voice. You've given me that ability to tap into what was already inside of me that I just didn't know that I had. So thank you so much.
Oh, Stacia. And so like I was telling Sarah, Stacia, you were willing to show up and play, you know, and one of your most beautiful traits, and I think Sarah will agree, is your generosity and your willingness to show up and support others. It's second to none. And every time I lost anything, I mean, you were there supporting, sharing. I mean, I would get every master class I've given. I think you've been there.
Yeah, same here.
So, I mean, there's just like, it was just a matter of creating the connection between who you truly are in your essence and allowing the flow of abundance to come back to you multiplied, because you've put out all, it's like they say, right? You get out of it what you put into it. And I believe that you get out of it tenfold or 100-fold what you put into it. And you sure put into it. And it was just and everything was just on the sidelines waiting for you to go, okay, let me receive. And when you finally did, it was just pouring in. And you were almost like, I'm freaking drowning here. I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, no, it's just you being you. Let it go and just lean into it, because it's going to get scary and you're going to want it to slow down. But if you slow it down, sometimes it stops, and that's not good. So lean into it and just enjoy the ride, right? And you were willing to do that, and you've done it, and it's just been like incredible.
Oh, thanks to you.
Your willingness. So
thank you. Well, now that we've told them all these incredible transformations that we've had, do you have any offers or anything that you want to share with our audience so they know what's going on in your world?
So the program that I have just finished working on is called True North. And this is the first time I say the name out loud, and it just feels so aligned, because it's a program specifically for women to really connect to their guidance and really find their true path. And it's exciting. I can't wait to see the transformations that are going to come out of that program.
For sure.
Yeah, I know how powerful it's going to be. I mean, you've heard the impact that you've had with us, right? So I'm so excited to see who steps into that and what transform. Like, it's guaranteed to transform their life and get them on the right path. So I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. And also, if you're watching and you want to follow me, there's a YouTube channel, Vocal Tapestry, VOCALTAPESTRY, and there's so much free content there. There's a lot of full sessions. I used to have a weekly program called Sound Bath Sundays, and there's so many episodes there. I went on live every Sunday for 2 years without a break. And and so there's a lot of free content there, and a lot of the episodes, every episode that I did had a message, had a seed in there, and the sound healing was made specifically for that energy, supporting the message of the day. And it was, I would get messages from people saying it transformed my life just from watching the free program. So if you're in a position right now where free is the way to go for you, go and follow me, subscribe to the channel, and you'll have a lot of hours in there that could really help you. And if you don't know where to start, just do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and just pick one, and it'll probably be the one that you need to hear in that moment.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So be sure to, and we'll have everything linked in our show notes for you to find Hannah, and yeah, if and then like if you want to hear more about our program, um like that's going to be a game that's going to just transform people. I'm so like I'm so lit up for that. Is there anything else that you would like to share or leave um our audience with before we close off this episode?
Well, besides the la 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 la, don't listen. I love to share. I always tell you guys to put yourself at the end of your life and imagine that it's your last day or your last hours or your last moment on this earth, and you're looking back at your life, and look at your life as if it were that moment, and feel if you're going to be like, yay, good job, or oh Lord.
Yeah.
And if it's yay for you, keep it up. But if it's, oh Lord, this is the time to connect to yourself. This is the time to start listening to your calling, to what your soul is asking you, to what your heart is telling you, to follow your joy and take the first step. You don't have to do it all in one go. Trust me, it's taken me years to do all the crazy stuff I've done. Taken me years, right? And just take the first step. And just my motto is to live with zero regrets. And if you do that as a practice, you don't have to do it every day. I tried to, but at least do it every week, every month, once a month, the day of the reckoning. And back and going like, am I doing great or not? And then course correct. There's, as long as you're here, there's time.
I love that. Oh my God, what a beautiful message to leave everyone with.
Definitely. Well, I can see why her. Oh,
yeah. I can see why it will be happy at this point. I don't know. The quote of the day, Stacia.
Well, I see why her favorite quote of all times is "No guts, no glory," because she is like this living testament to that statement. Is everything that she's done has just built to this incredible energy that's coming right now. Like I just feel it getting bigger and getting, this, especially with this new program. It's, I'm running out of words.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. This was so much fun. I loved interviewing you, Hannah. I know now your audience, like our audience, is going to like know you so much better and just like get you. And I love that you shared things with them that just allows us to build that deeper connection with everybody and lets everybody just see how amazing you are. Like I just love bragging about you because like this is the Ripple Effect podcast, and you have had such a huge ripple effect in my life, in Stacia's life, and I've witnessed in like your other clients that I've had the privilege to be in the same role with. And I hope that this little taste of Hannah's world has had a ripple effect for everybody listening. And this can be your inspiration or your motivation to, go try something new, block out, don't listen to everybody else. Hop onto our YouTube page, jump into our program, all the things, and let us know like what you took away from this and what ripple effect it's going to have for you in your life. So thank you everybody for being here. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to The Ripple Effect by the Alliance with Jana Martinez,
Stacia Stove,
and Sarah Jane Lita. We hope you're now vibing high and ready to create your own ripple.
Drop a comment or email to let us know the ripple effect that you are creating.
Music by our very own Jana Martinez and music production by Onel Moulet.
Follow us on Instagram at The Ripple Effect Pod for more high vibration content. Please rate and review us wherever you listen. Until next time.